Yes, Olive, it is. And the changes in the deck do not appear to necessarily be based on performance. It appears that, for instance, though a spade may be what works for the job, the King of Hearts may appoint a diamond since he at the third time prefers the finer things in life.
I, Margaret Kobia,
having been appointed a cabinet secretary,
do swear that I will at all times be faithful to the Republic of Kenya,
that I will obey, respect, and uphold this Constitution
and all other laws of the Republic.
It's not how competent or how hard a cabinet secretary works, but how smart and loyal he or she is to the boss that matters in Kenya. Cabinet appointments, usually followed by reshuffles, are not based on performance, contracting, but political achievements as envisioned by the leader of the ruling party.
Yes.
Political commentator Alutalala Mukwana blames the trend on total lack of constitutionalism and patriotism.
Performance contracting is really a fallacy. The truth is that cabinet ministers are appraised by their bosses depending on the political goals they have scored for them. That is what you see around, and that is why, for example, you find some ministers engaging in actions which are clearly unconstitutional, clearly unlawful, but the bosses just pat them on their wrists.
Mheshimiwa Rais ndio CEO wa nchi yetu ya Kenya. Asimame vile vile aambie wa Kenya, mimi nimewaachisha Rashid kazi ya waziri kwa sababu ya hii.
The dropping from cabinet of former CSs Richard Echesa, Mwangi Kiunjuri and Henry Rotich are viewed by critics as political other than being based on performance.
This is all politics. This matter was there in 2016, even when I was being vetted.
Firing of cabinet secretaries or senior civil servants is based on loyalty.
Although ordinarily there ought to be benchmarks, I do not think that these benchmarks matter at all under the Jubilee government. And the reason is that the considerations for which these CSs are appointed are not purely performance in the context of the public, you and I. It is performance in the context of those who have placed them there. The most recent example, which I want you to follow as a media house, the current theft, it's alleged, the current theft at KEMSA.
A cabinet reshuffle in itself is a game of cards, extensively used by sitting presidents to form new alliances. The now late former president Daniel Moi reshuffled cabinet in order to appoint NDP's Raila Odinga as energy minister in 2001 as a strategy for having the ruling party retain power in the 2002 elections. President Kenyatta has been consulting with key political players in the country such as Raila Odinga, KANU's Gideon Moi and Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka as part of consensus building that could see them nominate their allies to government. While the stepping aside of many cabinet secretaries in the country largely appears to have been necessitated by underperformance that's attributed mainly to corruption, the same senior government officers end up being moved to other positions.
The tragedy in this government that we have today is that the Constitution is a piece of paper, and therefore the requirements of the values of leadership under Chapter 6 are for the birds.
The issue of tribe and regional balance also appears to play a role in determining who sits in cabinet and who exits, even when the president is under pressure from the public to fire non-performing or corrupt cabinet secretaries, as was the case during the much publicized Itare, Aror and Kimwarer dam scandals. He at times finds himself with tough choices to make.
And because this government is a coalition of tribes, it makes it very difficult for the head of state to touch the other member of the other tribe. If it were a government that was based on truly national principles, where the Constitution dictates that none should be marginalized by virtue of the minority, color, skin, or creed, and if the head of state and his government abided by the law of the Constitution to the letter, it would be very easy for that head of state to dispense with the non-performing CS.
State House insiders say President Uhuru Kenyatta has in the past asked his ministers to proceed on leave whenever he wants to effect cabinet changes.